Attention remodeling entrepreneurs. Are you ready to rise? Ryan Paul Adams and Kyle Hunt are your hosts of Remodelers on the Rise. A weekly podcast where they interview today's most inspiring entrepreneurs from the remodeling world who share their journey and empower you to become the next remodeler on the rise. And now, here are your hosts.
Remodelers on the Rise, show number 5.
Welcome to Remodelers on the Rise. I am your host, Kyle Hunt, and alongside me is my co-host, Ryan Paul Adams. What's going on, Ryan?
Hey, Kyle, what's happening?
Not much. So let's get right to it. Let's get started by introducing today's guest, who is TJ Albert, who's the owner and CEO of Albert Construction. They're one of the fastest growing exterior remodeling companies in the Indianapolis area. It's our first kind of exterior specialist that we've had on the podcast. And TJ's been in the remodeling industry for over 16 years and is a 2013 Bright Future Award winner at Owens Corning. You got that hanging on the wall there, TJ?
Actually, it was the award doesn't hang on the wall. It's kind of I think it's made of glass, and it actually just sits on a table right
it's
now.
Like a Grammy or an Emmy over there, huh?
Yeah. I don't know if it's that special, but
oh, that's great.
It is a pretty cool thing to get, and nice to have it displayed.
It's a testament that you're doing the right things, for sure.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us today, TJ. The focus of the show is really about you and your business and your experience. I just gave you kind of a quick intro, and I'd like to turn it over to you for a minute now. Briefly tell us more about you personally so they know who they're listening to, and also your business.
Sure. Well, I got into the remodeling business, when I was 18 is when I really started. And I've kind of done a little bit of everything. And my family I grew up around contractors, and a couple of my uncles are custom home builders, and my dad was in the supply business, and he worked for some lumber yards and worked for Lowe's for 13 years as a manager there. So I was familiar with building products and
it's in your blood.
It's in the blood.
It is. It's kind of in the blood. Yeah, exactly. So, when I got into the roofing side of it, everything just seemed to kind of come easy, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So
the remodeling business is easy. All right, we got to get to this story.
No, I wouldn't say it's easy. It came. I should say it came easier to me than some of the other guys that didn't have experience that I was working with. How about that?
Sure, and it's probably a testament to some of the things that you're doing that we can kind of get into here as well.
Yeah. So on Remodelers on the Rise, we ask a series of questions to kind of help our listeners learn from you. Someone we consider to be a successful remodeling entrepreneur. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and get started with the first question?
All right. TJ, can you share a success quote that you live by and an example of how you might apply this to your remodeling business or your life?
Sure. It's one that we probably all heard in kindergarten. Treat others as you would want to be treated. I feel like is a pretty good, one to go by. So, and I kind of, another kind of spin off of that is when we're working for somebody, treat them the way that you would want, somebody to treat your mom if they're working on your mom's house. So
practically speaking, TJ, what does that look like for, how we approach or how we treat the homeowner?
Sure.
In your case.
I don't know if you guys have ever worked on a crew or whatever, but
Yep.
I'm sure you've probably heard the statement, I can't see it from my house. And
right.
when you're kind of in that one of those type of situations, to kind of have a gut check and go, well, let's do it right, even if it takes a little bit more time or whatever. So that on the on kind of the labor end of it, I think, as a business owner looking at it, I try to treat employees fairly and in kind of the way that I would want to be treated. And, we've all, had experiences working for other people where, sometimes you feel like you're getting, the short end of the stick or whatever. So I just try to be fair, basically.
Gotcha.
And I think it's important because in the remodeling industry, it's one of the lowest rated customer trust industries in the world, right?
Right.
So having that motto, I think, is really, really good because there's so many bad contractors out there. Yeah. And you can easily differentiate yourself just by doing the right things.
Sure. There's two things that popped out of what you were saying there, TJ, for me. Number one is just last week I was actually meeting with one of my longtime clients. We were looking at kind of the 2013 year that was, and we were looking at his financials and reviewing all that and kind of looking at the net profit down at the bottom. And something came up where he said, that net would be looking a little better, but this year I kind of took a hard look at things, and I'm working with higher caliber subcontractors. They're doing better work, but the quality is so much better. And no, I'm not making as much money, but the experience for the client, my stress level is so much better. And he also has a few employees that he bumped up, that he gave some raises to. And that when you treat your employees right, which is what you're getting at there, a lot of other things can fall into place because of that, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And number two, you mentioned, that thing that, what was your quote again? Treat others like you want to be treated, that you learned in kindergarten. It's kind of funny because I was driving our 5 and a 7-year-old to school earlier in the week, and by golly, if I didn't teach my kindergarten and second grader that exact rule this week. So
nice.
That was like hitting right present day for me, man.
All right.
So, next story, share a story of a time in your journey where you encountered failure, if you could. Take us to that time in your life and tell us that story. Maybe share some lessons you learned from that.
Sure. Before I went out on my own and started Elbert Construction, I had done quite a bit of painting in college. I worked for it was called a painting and building maintenance company, and I did a little bit of everything there, but did a whole lot of painting. And I worked for them for about 4 or 5 years, and then I had decided to do a property maintenance business, and I moved to a town that was about 4 hours away from home. There were a lot of lake properties, vacation properties there, and I thought it was a great idea to start a property maintenance service taking care of all the lake homes that were vacation homes where people didn't want to spend their weekends, taking care of their house. They wanted to spend their weekends playing at the lake. So I tried to do everything for everybody, and it didn't work out too good. I was mowing yards, doing leaf removal, putting in boat lifts and putting in docks and taking them out for the winter when the lake froze. And then I was doing everything, pressure washing, cleaning gutters, did a lot of painting, painting houses, staining decks, building decks.
And you were just waking up every day just excited about life?
Right, yeah.
Not so much.
We were trying to do everything, and it was really brutal. I was waking up at, I was starting at about 5 a.m. and doing my own bookkeeping on QuickBooks. Some guys would meet me at 7 o'clock. I had 2 guys that were like part-time college students, and their hours were really kind of just hit and miss.
Sounds like a recipe for getting burned out.
It was. So I got real burned out on everything. I was running from 5 a.m. to dark every day, and that's exactly what it was. I was getting burned out. I had generated a lot of business. There were about 93 people that we were doing work for the first year. Mm-hmm. And I was getting a lot of calls, but one of the mistakes that I was making is that and not that you can't operate this way, it just didn't work for me. But I was, when I was bidding on jobs and paying by the hour, that worked out if I was there. But if I wasn't on the job, then I was losing money, basically. Yeah. And I didn't really see a way for that to get much better.
So that was one of the mistakes. What would you say is probably the biggest mistake out of that, or where the failure came in? Because from the outside, right? Well, I'm generating business, doing a lot of things, have a lot of clients. What was the big failure? What was the big moment of realization that this ain't working?
The big realization was I had a guy that I had trusted. It basically realizing that I didn't have anybody really I could trust to kind of help me out. I didn't know a lot of people in the area, and so there was a guy that I had trusted to. We had at the time maybe 25 yards or something, or 30 that we mowed, and I had let him take my truck and mower and trailer equipment, all that, to go around and mow these yards. And then I was working with guys doing other stuff. But that was, kind of how I was managing it to be able to get everything done. And I found out that he was mowing other people's yards with my equipment, and I was
Nice.
paying by the hour.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then he's getting, $30 or whatever for these other yards he was mowing. And
so does this kind of paint back to what you were hitting on earlier, which is, this may have been a focal point for treating people the right way, treating employees the right way. And in that case, it was the reverse for you, right? He was taking advantage of you and your business. But did that set some of the groundwork for how you're running your business today? That's what it sounds like. Yeah,
it did. I mean, I realized this ain't gonna work. So I just, I had let everybody go, and I decided to finish the jobs myself, and then I quit doing that. And that's when I shortly after that I got into the roofing business.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then you got into the roofing business working for somebody else, correct?
Yeah.
And so there was some issues there that came up. I was talking to you about, you talk a little bit about that, and
sure,
kind of the aha moment you had to go and start your own business.
Sure. I worked for another company as a salesman selling exteriors, mostly roofs. And I loved it. I really did. I still do. I really enjoyed the sales side of it, and I did pretty well at that, and did it for a couple of years, and then I had landed a big job. It was actually for a friend of mine. It was roughly a $400,000 project.
Wow. Nice.
And and so I was on top of the world, thinking, wow, this is great. It's a great start to the year. Really excited about everything, and so that project was kind of a game changer for me, because shortly after we had landed the project, I was on the job quite a bit, and the owner, I was trying to figure out about what our costs were going to be on the project, because I was paid a percentage of the profit.
Sure.
And the owner of the company I worked for yelled at me and told me I need to stay away from that job. And
that's a red flag.
Yeah, and said stay away from it. You'll get paid something.
Oh,
and
sure.
And I thought, what in the world? I'm just trying to figure out a ballpark of how this is going to play out, and then also I was wanting to make sure that things were going smooth there or whatever. And it turns out that they were not going smooth, which is probably why he wanted me to stay away. Our subs ended up no showing, and this roof was completely ripped off the building, and they had water coming in, and it was a real nightmare. they wanted to cancel. I ended up being able to save the project with the guy. As I mentioned, he's a friend of mine. And then they told me to stay away and that I'd get paid something. And so that's what I did. I just stayed away. And it was at that point that, a project like that, it took a couple months to get done. Sure. And so in that time frame, I started looking for another job, and I figured that I probably wasn't going to get paid very much at all. And the way that I had kind of calculated what I felt like, would have been fair, I feel like I kind of got shorted about $30,000 in commission. Yeah. So I was like, well, it's time to do something else. And I had interviewed with a few other companies around town, and companies that I felt like would be good to work for. And I kind of was getting that gut feeling of some of the other stuff that goes on in the industry. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go out on my own. And so I talked to my wife about it, and I felt like it could be done. It wasn't really necessarily what I wanted to do at the time, because I had that experience before owning my own company. And I thought, man, this is, it's so
deja vu all over again.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I'd rather just sell stuff and not have to manage.
And then go home at night and just kind of relax. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you have headaches as a seller, no doubt, but it's not the same. So, so anyway, she was, like, you sure this is what you want to do? And I was, yeah, I think so. And so then that's kind of the way it all started.
Nice.
Gotcha.
TJ, is there anything in the business right now or in the remodeling industry that's exciting you?
Yeah, all kinds of stuff.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things happening in the industry, I feel like. I think some of the stuff that's kind of seems to be a trend is the way that technology's entered the industry, and all of the cool apps and things that you can use when you're looking at managing a business. There's a lot of CRM software out there that can make our jobs easier from a management standpoint. There's a lot of apps out there where you can take a picture of someone's home and then, put different roofs on it and let them pick shingle colors and different roofing styles and things like that. And so for the industry as a whole, that I think that kind of stuff is pretty exciting. And then, I think construction is supposed to be picking up this year.
Yeah.
As far as new construction goes. And
not to put you on the spot, is there any app or software that you're using that you just find is amazing and couldn't live without it?
Yeah, for us, like I mentioned, we do exteriors. We use a software called AccuLinks.
Yep. Okay.
And it's a great system for what we do. It's built by guys that do what we do, so it's pretty good for exterior contractors.
What was the name of that? What was the name of that again?
AccuLinks.
AccuLinks. Okay.
Yeah. And then also that there's a bunch of different apps as far as the home remodeler type stuff. One is there's on Owens Corning's website. It's called Design IQ, and then there's a GAF has one called the GAF Home Remodeler, and both of those are pretty neat to be able to show customers and help them see different shingle designs on roofs. But there's tons of those out there for all different siding companies, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I think that stuff's kind of neat. But as far as stuff that we're excited about, as a company, we're looking to we're looking at expanding and opening another office this year.
Nice.
And we've also we hired a guy to do commercial estimating, so we're getting into commercial this year.
Well, and you had mentioned to me also that, which I found really interesting, that you actually have a law firm on retainer out of Chicago that you hire to it's not really for you, it's more for your clients. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you do that?
Sure. Yeah, we worked with an attorney out of Chicago that they specialize in protecting the rights of the insured. And because we do a lot of insurance claims,
sure.
It's a lot of what we do. And so they deal with everybody from, doctors and, all the different industries that deal with insurance companies to get paid. They kind of have a long history of working with that, and roofing contractors seem to be kind of growing in that field or whatever, as far as people that are getting paid by insurance companies to do work. And we partnered up with them or put them on retainer so that when we run across people that are just kind of not getting treated fairly by their insurance company, before we did that, we really didn't know where to go with it.
Sure.
We would say, your insurance company's not doing you right, but they're stonewalling us, and we don't really know what to do next. I guess if you want to fight them or whatever, and just call us when you're ready to have your roof put on, and we'll put your roof on for you. But we don't know what to do. And so we had, we had worked with some public adjusters and stuff like that, and sometimes they can get things, done that a contractor can't.
Gotcha.
But not nearly as well as a nice little letter from a law firm.
Well, yeah, and maybe not even a letter. I mean, they do some stuff that I didn't even really know about. So it was just kind of neat to learn kind of what the rights of everybody, what everybody's rights are. And really, as a contractor, the insurance company has they basically have an agreement, which is the policy with the homeowner. And then as a contractor, we come in and say, hey, you need to fix their roof. It's messed up. Right. They say, who are you? My deal's with the homeowner. I'm saying it's not messed up, and you just kind of need to go away. And so, it was real frustrating when you get in those type of situations. But one of the things that we learned there was what they call an assignment of claim, where the homeowner can assign the claim to you as a contractor.
I see.
And then the contractor now has all the rights that the homeowner had on the policy. So now, instead of just being this, third party out there getting in the way, now the deal is you have a lot of rights with the insurance company. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting value. I mean, there's we're always talking about how do we differentiate ourselves? How do we add more value? That's a very interesting and compelling value add. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah.
before we get into the lightning round, I wanted to ask one more question. It sounds like you guys have been and are growing at a pretty strong and steady rate. What are some of the things that you're doing to grow the business, whether from the marketing side or the sales side? Any specifics that come to mind when I ask that?
Sure. We have grown quite a bit in the last 2 years. I would attribute a lot of it to our sales training. We work with I don't know if I can name drop on here or whatever, but
you can do whatever you want.
Do it. It's your show, yeah.
Right. So okay, we work with a guy named Rodney Webb, and he is really good at as a sales consultant, and he is really his selling system has really changed our business, and we kind of are focused on that, and we can use that to train new sales reps when they come in. And it's kind of a system where it's repeatable and it's teachable, and it really does a lot for our company. And so that is
the number one.
That's what's driven sales. I feel like that, and it doesn't hurt that we had a hailstorm hit Hamilton County, which is where we live.
Well, you don't talk about doing estimates, right? You do more of like an inspection, and that's kind of your hook to get in the door, and you have a nice presentation and sales process to go along with that, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we offer an inspection and then go through the presentation.
I think so often, remodelers, contractors, they say, well, my problem with my sales is that I don't have enough leads, or the quality of leads. And what I find, kind of what you emphasized there that I wanted to highlight just for everybody listening, is that improving your sales process, improving the questions you ask, the way that you educate the homeowner, the way that you present how you're different, there's really no better bang for the buck than that. There's a remodeler I'm chatting with right now that they think their problem is that they need more leads, but they have plenty of leads. Their problem is that they're not converting those leads into paying projects. Yep. And what you're emphasizing there is something I just wanted to emphasize for everybody listening. Investing in sales training and improving your sales process is huge. So now we're going to get into the lightning rounds, TJ. This is where we kind of rapid fire through a series of questions, and you continue to share your smarts with us. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So Ryan, start us off with the first question.
TJ, share with us the best business advice you've ever received.
I would say, that there's an old farmer that I used to work for, and he created he developed a snow skiing resort, and he's got a 6th grade education, and he always said, just keep it simple. And I think that's good advice. And he's multi-millionaire.
There you go.
Kind of crazy.
Can you share one of your personal habits that you believe attributes to your success?
Gosh, I don't know. I would say maybe what I had touched on before, where treating others kind of the way you would want to be treated.
It's not a magic food you eat, or it's not a magic thing you do in the morning. There's nothing behind the curtain.
No, nothing like that. I mean, I just try and be straight up with people, I guess.
Beautiful.
You sound like you're very consistent with what you do. You have a very specific plan in place. You're very focused on exteriors. And you're just very, very consistent and methodical about how you approach your market and what you're doing. And you're not going to get distracted, that's what I've taken away from just a little bit that I've known.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Good. What book would you recommend to Remodelers on the Rise listeners?
I just read a book that I thought was really good, and it's funny you should ask that. The name of it is called Beyond Entrepreneurship, and is written by James Collins and William Lazier. But it's about it says turning your business into an enduring great company, and it I thought that it was really good because it's not necessarily teaching you how to start up a business, but it's how to once you've got a business going, it's kind of like the whole take it to the next level type thing.
Growth.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But I thought it was a good book.
Do you have a resource of some kind that you could share with our listeners? And again, as a reminder to our audience, all of these resources are available at remodellersontherise.com, show number 5, with the show notes as well.
As far as, I guess a resource is kind of a general term.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Sure,
if you have a sample contract.
Template, a tool, something that something you guys use in your business that might be willing to share. Even if it's just some of the questions that you might ask that are effective during the sales process or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say Rodney Webb has a thing called the Rodney Webb University, and it's an online kind of sales training type thing. And that's a really good resource, or a real good thing that I'd be able to share.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect. All right. So the final question, I don't know if you've seen this question or listened to any of our podcasts, but I'm going to put you on the spot, and here we go. So imagine, TJ, that you woke up tomorrow morning and you were in the exact same business, but you knew no one, had no sales, and only $500 of startup money, and your life depended on you selling something in the next 7 days. You still have all the experience and knowledge you currently have, your food and shelters all taken care of, but all you have is a laptop and $500. What would you do in the next 7 days to survive and generate new business? And remember, your life depends on it, sir.
That's funny. That's not far off from what really happened. I can answer that pretty easy because I pretty much lived it. So when I first got in the company, I'll tell you what I would do. I was used to working a lot of storm damage. I found an area, a couple neighborhoods that had storm damage that not a lot of guys were working. It was older damage, but it had a fresh storm date. So I went into it and started knocking on doors, and I was just crossing my fingers that the people didn't ask me for a proof of insurance or anything like that. I was able to get on some roofs and check for inspections, and I had found a neighborhood with some damage in it, and so I asked them to call their insurance company, met their adjusters, and roofs got paid for. And the first one that I met with, the guy wrote a check on the spot, printed it off in his car, and gave it to the homeowner. Thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And so I just asked for a down payment to get started, and I did that. I sold, I think I sold 4 jobs in the first 2 weeks, and I had taken down payments, and I used that down payments on those to I bought a small general liability policy, a few $100 to get me going. I wanted to make sure I had insurance before I actually started doing work on their house.
Sure.
And bought materials, had a crew put a roof on, and
off you go.
Off I went. In the beginning, I was offering deals where, if they paid in full the same day, the last day that we were done with the project, that I'd offer them, a free upgrade on shingles or something like that, to where I didn't have to wait on the insurance company to cut the check, and where I could keep my cash flow going. And that's kind of
so you're telling me you didn't sit home and cry and complain about the economy or all of these other things that you couldn't control. You went out there and made things happen.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have much of an option, really.
That's huge. TJ, as we wrap this up here, is there anything else you wanted to share, and just let the people know where they can get a hold of you, where they can find you?
Sure. I could, I can give you my email address is TJ, ELBERT, 1 @gmail.com. And if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to send me an email, and happy to share anything to overall try and make the industry better. That's kind of the goal, I guess.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, TJ, for coming on the show today. We really appreciate you sharing your story. And just a friendly reminder to all of our listeners, if you could check out remodellersontherise.com and take a couple minutes to review and rate our show on iTunes. The more reviews and ratings we get on iTunes, the better chance other people like yourself can find the show. We appreciate you all tuning in, and thank you to my co-host, Ryan, and thank you, TJ, for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you both.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Remember, Remodelers on the Rise listeners, to head over to iTunes to like and review our show. You can also find today's interviews, full transcripts, and additional free resources at remodelersontherise.com. On behalf of Kyle and Ryan, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.